The idea of Greater Idaho is this: move the border between Oregon and Idaho and make both states a little bit better and make Idaho a lot bigger. More conservatives in eastern Oregon can join the red state of Idaho. The heavily blue northwestern portion of Oregon, that'd stay the way it is without having to deal with disagreements or issues out east. That's the vision of supporters anyway. The whole idea got started back in 2019. It gained traction because many in eastern Oregon feel like lawmakers in Salem only care about the western half of the state.
For a very long time, there's been this urban-rural divide, and people on the east side of the state have felt like their state-level government has not heard them, has not understood their way of life, their values, their problems, and has enacted policy that doesn't work for us in eastern Oregon.
Now, you might be sitting at home scoffing about the thought of moving the border, but you should know voters in eastern Oregon are serious. Look at this. 11 counties have voted to start talks. Those are the counties in the red. Wallowa County is green right now, but in May, voters there will decide whether to join the movement. Now, it's important to note that these votes are simply a message to state lawmakers. They're saying, hey, pay attention to what we care about, and we want to start talking about moving this border. The momentum is greater than it's ever been for this movement. The next step is getting the legislatures involved, and that process is underway now in Idaho. Last week, for example, the Idaho House of Representatives approved a measure to get the border moving talks underway. There was not exactly unanimous support, but there was enough to get the bill to pass the House.
Why wouldn't we at least want to have a conversation about increasing the size of our state? You know that up until just recently, we've been the #1 fastest growing state in the nation, with a lot of people coming here, and our open areas are becoming less and less apparent. So we would be looking at adding a large landmass to the state of Idaho. Why not have that conversation?
We should not be self-segregating by ideology like this. I think we're on a path to civil war if we keep going down this path. We have got to learn to get along better and work together better. The answer cannot be to just start carving up the country and redrawing lines that have been in place for a century or more just so that we can only be surrounded by people that perfectly agree with us. I think this is an unfortunate direction for America, for Idaho, and for all concerned. And I hope that someday we move in an America that moves away from the current wave of partisanship. I think this exacerbates a dangerous direction that America is moving in.
The bill still needs to pass the Idaho Senate. Then it needs approval from Idaho Governor Brad Little. Again, the bill is only to get discussions underway. If passed, it would not automatically change anything. And if Oregon lawmakers don't pass a similar bill, well, then the effort's pretty much dead in the water, at least for now. And yes, thanks for asking, there is a measure in the Oregon legislature to do just that. It also wants the two states to start talking about the border. It's sponsored by Republican Dennis Lithicum of Klamath Falls. It's sitting in the Senate Rules Committee, but it does not have any hearings scheduled. In my experience, that's often what happens to bills that are going to die in committee. And look, there are a lot of people who think this is just a big joke. Even if the bill passes in Idaho, it seems like a moonshot for it to pass in Oregon. Very unlikely. But KGW political analyst Betsy Johnson says for many voters in eastern Oregon, this is no joke, no matter the odds against it.
I think many people in the urban areas, particularly in Portland, dismiss this as a bunch of cranks out in eastern Oregon. The fundamental question that you got to ask is, why are these people so angry? And this is visceral, real anger.
There are a lot of issues that would come up between the two states if discussions were allowed to begin. That is a story for another day. And trust me, we are going to be doing more stories on this as the process either gains momentum or fizzles out. But just stop and think about it for a moment. It would not be a great look, and certainly not good publicity, for Oregon lawmakers to basically cede a giant chunk of the state to a neighbor.
People like me are offended. I don't have a vote anymore, but people like me are offended that the question's being called. Some of the urban legislators might say, fine, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I don't know what's going to happen. It'll be an interesting discussion. I don't know how proud I would be to be the governor of the state of Oregon signing a bill that says, let's talk about some of the citizens in my state disliking this place so much that they're fleeing to Idaho. I would see that as a public national humiliation, but that's just me.
All right, let's just pretend for a moment that both states do come to an agreement on moving the border. At that point, Congress would have to step in and approve the move. And if a recent statement from Oregon Congressman Earl Blumenauer is any indication, It would definitely be an uphill battle in Washington, D.C. With his tongue firmly planted in cheek, Blumenauer said, "I would entertain a trade for Boise and Sun Valley." Gotta say, those are two beautiful spots. So there's what's going on. What do you think about the Greater Idaho movement? Do you think it's a joke, or would it be something that you'd be interested in entertaining if you're pretending that you're the governor? Let us know. Send us an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.